Excellent. Well, thank you, Sonia. Welcome, everybody. Thank you to Sonia for all the arrangements that she makes in terms of preparing these things. We're with a different kind of format today. So those of you who have attended before, you're probably used to me sort of banging on for about 30 to 40 minutes about various different best practices. We decided to take a slightly different approach in this session and invite 3 innovation leaders from 3 very different organizations to talk about some of the challenges that they've faced in their journey to improve innovation performance and dig into some of the solutions that they've been able to discover along the way. We often find ourselves as innovators to be lone wolves in our organizations, struggling against problems and politics and structural considerations that can feel very specific to us, but of course in reality many organizations face those challenges. So instead of just talking about innovation outcomes and everything we've achieved, instead let's get into those problems and let's talk a little bit about those topics. So I'm going to ask our panelists to turn their cameras on. We have Isabelle from Thales joining us from France. We have Caitlin from Birla Carbon in Georgia. And then we have Monika from Pholpharma in Poland. So these are our 3 wonderful innovation leaders. And I think I've known, well, there's certainly 2 of them for many years and one of them for a little bit more recently. But I can tell from the conversations I've had before that they've all got phenomenal insights to share with us. And as I said, this is going to be a little different. We're going to be quite informal. And I'm going to go through the challenges that each of the panelists have brought to us in turn. And then what we're going to do is sort of a bit of a Q&A in terms of some of their discoveries along the way, some of their learnings, and there will be opportunities for everyone to ask questions. I'm going to try and get through with some degree of structure, as informal as this session is going to be, but there will be time at the end for any questions that we don't get to. So as the panelists are talking, if you have a question, please feel free to put it into the chat. If it makes sense, I will try and integrate it into the conversation, or if not, we'll try to address it at the end. So that will bring me to my first panelist, which is Isabelle from Thales. So Isabelle, if you could maybe just go off mute, and maybe Sonia, you can pin Isabelle for everybody so she has a bigger profile so everyone can see her clearly. Maybe Isabelle, you could just explain your role at Thales and a little bit about what you do and of course the organization that you work for to kick us off.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Thank you, Sonia, and welcome everyone. My name is Isabelle Armand-Guerineau. I'm very pleased to be with all of you to share some return of experience regarding innovation. I'm part of Thales. Thales is a big company, worldwide company in techno. And more specifically today, what I want to speak about is innovation and how intellectual property can work together with innovation. I'm located in south of France because Colin asked and Sonia also. So just to tell you, and just behind me, this is a picture of our design center. We have a network of design centers in Thales. And if we deep dive a little between these 80,000 employees, we have some of them who created, and I'm part of that, who created these design centers to promote innovation, to bring a culture of innovation, to inspire others, and so on. And since several years after pushing, trying to help all of our teams to become more innovative, it came to the mind that, and it's important, to push for open innovation because it's important to go outside. And so open innovation with customers, with startups, with partners, and also with academics. And today, this return of experience with academics that I want to discuss. Because in fact, we started in 2021 when we had COVID. And so we were obliged to go with masks with people. But anyway, the idea, what we did was to work with some universities and each year to provide a challenge. And during 1 week, we run one design thinking full week with all the participants, all the students. So the first time we had around 40 students. The year after, it was around 60. And the third year, we had 100 students. Each time, we have to come with a challenge from Thales that will help normally, potentially, to identify new ideas and essentially potential future talents. But what is important is also to make the bridge with the academics to explain what a big company is doing and to understand better what are the big trends and where we want to go and what are our challenges. So to do so, in the first exercises, we went with what we call NDA, non-disclosure agreements, just to structure the boundaries between Thales and the schools. However, when we wanted to replicate this in India, because we have design centers in south of France, in Paris, in India also, we said, okay, why not launching a hackathon between several universities and giving them a unique challenge for each of them, because we didn't want them to compete together. But the idea was to say, okay, Thales is coming with one challenge around AI, around cyber, and please provide us, and so we have to explain what is a challenge and so on, but please provide us some good ideas. And in fact, when we started to build this hackathon, and I saw there is someone who helped me a lot, and she's in the call, and so we said, okay, we need to present what could be the challenge. We need to explain what could be the structure, how we want to do that, because we need multidisciplinary teams. We will use our famous Hype innovation platform to register every ideas. But however, how will we manage patents with that? What about intellectual property? And so this is a tricky question.
Yeah.
Because
can we just pause at that point for a second, because that's one of the questions that often is a blocker to organizations going outside. I think everybody recognizes that there's phenomenal intelligence and expertise outside the organization, but obviously one of the first questions is, yes, but if we engage more proactively outside, what about intellectual property, especially if we increase the scale of it by engaging at scale? Before we get to how you went about it, I'm interested in the conversations you had internally in terms of what kind of protections or legal restrictions or constraints were put on you, or perhaps some of the fears that was just floating around the organization before we even look outside. What was there? What was that conversation like, and what kind of issues did you face internally to get them to accept the fact that this is possible?
Yeah, alors, hopefully, I was part of the Department of Innovation and Technology, and inside we had the Intellectual Property Department. So all together, pushing innovation in different ways, but anyway, knowing that IP is a big differentiator. We have a strong IP, Intellectual Property Department, which is pushing for a lot of patents, a lot of assets, because for a big company, it's really, really important. However, we know that we need to go outside, we need to be open, and on several aspects, I think regarding the branding, but also being able to be challenged ourselves by these new generations, because we are building the future of this new generation. So they need to provide us their needs, their impact. So it was the first question, first discussion, what do you want to do? How do you want to organize this? If it is a question of 1 or 2 days, I will say, okay, we will not go too much in big solutions, so potentially no issue. Then after, you have to identify the different profile of people, because depending the contract of the internship, it could be different. And all the good ideas, if the intern is already in another company, all the new property could go to the other company. So it's something to discuss. So we analyze the risk, we analyze what we wanted to achieve, the objective, and in fact, we discussed together what could be done.
So I think the fact you included the IP department is super helpful. These people understand that, what the boundaries are. I have seen organizations address it in different ways. So sometimes companies will simply say, please don't share intellectual property at this point, which I think is fine. But if we get into a co-creation conversation like a hackathon, then obviously we need to answer that question. I've seen organizations simply offer a reward. If we're dealing with students, we're going to give you a prize. The intellectual property is ours, but we will give you something if we choose to adopt it. And of course, there is the something probably in between as well. What was the solution that you came up with in the end? Because obviously with a hackathon, you can end up creating things.
Yeah, alors, with the hackathon, our objective was to go with 6 universities. And at the end, because we had discussions, because we involved the IP perhaps too early, I don't know.
Okay.
So this is something also, this was our first really big experience with this big hackathon that we wanted to manage during several months. And so we had to discuss with the different universities and to let our IP department to discuss with a legal entity. Because at the beginning we explained, okay, this is the way that we will run the hackathon. But then when it came to legal, we are not at the same level in terms of experience. And so we have them to discuss. So finally, we went with the hackathon only with 2 universities.
Okay.
The other,
keep things a little simpler.
Yeah, the other, they said, no, we don't want to sign a contract. We don't want to do this and so on. So we found, I think, a win-win situation with only 2 universities.
Yeah.
And based on this, because we had a lot of internal fight, I will say, external fight, and so on, but we learned, and we know that we need to have a clear balance with what we want and how we want to do things.
Yeah.
Because working with others is really important, and we cannot be alone.
So, I mean, it seems that the ultimate issue here is how do we bring in diverse expertise and knowledge inside the organization. That is a common concern for lots of companies. We only can employ so many people. There are different perspectives, different levels of expertise out there. I remember talking to a company quite recently who said they've been wrestling with a problem for about 18 months, and then they posed it to an academic partner who had already solved it years ago, but they simply weren't connected. And so we can see the value in bringing outside in. Did you just focus on students, or did you also include sort of faculty and academics in that process as well?
It was amazing, because in fact we did the kickoff in the universities with all the students. We had more than 500 students. It was crazy. All these people, these young people looking at us, waiting for the challenge. So sometimes it was not well understood, but anyway, it can show how interested they were. And so we went on this, we had ideas, and we ran it. What I wanted to say also is that I discussed with other universities in France and in other countries, and it's time for them. It's really important to write in the academic, to write papers. And so also there is a way to say, okay, perhaps if there is an idea, wait a little. We need to see if there is a patent. We need to patent it together and publish it later. But we will give you time. We will inform you, or we will speed up for you also to be able to publish, because this is their life. So we need to work together.
I think it's a really interesting point. So what we've done is you've put out front the fact we have a policy for intellectual property and how we're going to deal with it. You've also allowed universities to self-select, right? Not every organization that's external to you is going to say, yes, I want to be a part of that. And that's okay. The ones that are interested will come to the party. And I've certainly seen very different attitudes and maturity levels within academic institutions in terms of how open they are prepared to be and what kind of levels of collaboration they're willing to foster. So in terms of once you got into the process of engaging with them, To what extent did you direct them towards problems that you were trying to solve? Was it more that they could generate anything that they felt was valuable to you? How focused did you make the topics that they should engage with?
So we had the different challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea was because I took question regarding design thinking. In fact, it was really to implement the approach of design thinking, sometimes in 1 week or sometimes in 3 months before coming with an idea. So really clarifying the challenge, understanding the ecosystem, knowing who are the competitors and so on, going on the field, identifying our stakeholders and so on. So based on that, you can identify, okay, do you have patent? Perhaps you do not have, or where do we go? And frankly speaking, even if when it was during 1 week, what we saw at the end, because we went through the full process, and at the end we had a jury, a mix of Thales and the university, and it was crazy seeing all these people who were able to promote the idea. So then after they need the clue to make it, I would say, to formalize as a patent if we need. But this is important.
Awesome. Maybe before I just open up for a couple of questions from the floor, if I could ask you what you might do differently if you were to do this again, what stands out in terms of the steps in the journey, be they internal or external, that perhaps you might address in a different kind of way, now that you know what you know and you've been through this process?
Yeah, and also, with this first exercise, we started trust between the university and Thales. And then after, when there is a level of confidence, you can go further. So it's the first time you don't know each other, you don't know, okay, what will happen. So people are not sometimes so open to say, okay, let's see, let's go. And at the end, what is important is also to work together and to help our new generation to grow.
I think it's a great observation, which is you don't necessarily want to do everything in the first instance, right? We've got to build the trust. You've got to find that opportunity to bring two or several organizations together in a way which is perhaps relatively low risk. It will have value, of course, but maybe not the most important challenges that we face. Use that first step to build trust, learn how this should work and where the challenges are on both sides. The organization's ability to catch what we generate, but also the external perspective in terms of what's comfortable for them, what's not so comfortable. I think it's a really good observation. So I'm going to open it up to our other panelists. So Caitlin, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Or Monika, if you have any questions, again, feel free just to shout them out. And before we move on to our next panelist.
Yeah, thanks, Isabelle, and I definitely want to connect with you after this because we're also looking to build our university and academic partnerships. I guess one of my key questions. So the ideas or the thoughts that you kind of captured from these academic institutions, how did you go about giving feedback to the individuals that participated in this? Because I know feedback is really important to drive engagement in the future and to get people coming back and wanting to partner more. So what was your process for that?
Cool. So you have got two big families of stakeholders. You have the university with the teacher, the president, and you have the students. Regarding the students, for the feedback, it was at the end during the jury. And this is something that we did really because it was important to explain, hey, you did this very well, and you can improve on that. And it was more on the approach, on the way of doing things or working together that we provided feedback. So it was so great. And we helped them to come and to present for the top winners. We asked them to come during an innovation cafe that we were doing. And so they present the work, the deliverables, and it helped them to be known by people. If after you need some interns, if you need to recruit, where you can say, okay, we have good talents. So this is that. And then after we had discussions with the university outside just to say, okay, this is what we did. This is how we did it. When we did it in France during the 3 years, each time we improve ourselves just to make things better, and with a common objective, helping these students to grow and contributing to Thales challenges.
Yeah. It's a great point, and thank you, Caitlin. I think that if we were to repeat this exercise, the feedback loop is really important. And obviously, inside an organization, people can see how things are progressing, but outside an organization, it's less transparent to them. If we want to be able to go back to the well, we need a very clear process for that. So before we move on to the next panelist, I've just got one question here from the chat: is how do you form the challenge themes? What works and what may take you down the wrong path?
Okay.
This is obviously very different than perhaps doing it inside the company. You have to present information in a completely different way, I imagine.
Yeah, and the challenges are totally is something that you need to work and to prepare. You are not coming like this to say, okay, I have a challenge, here we go. So you have to prepare it. You have to introduce it to the people, and to formalize it first, it's also to explain what is Thales, what we are expecting from them, the methodology, and so on. So at the end, we need to be, we need perhaps to come with a high-level view, but we know that we are students that could go very fast, that could deep dive very quickly, and be very amazing, I would say. So you need to manage it correctly, and you need to work with the teacher just to say, okay, we have a challenge on AI. Okay, on AI. What are you doing? How can we deep dive? What could be? We are interested by this. Do we change this a little, and so on? We had some universities who told us we need to inject some environment, societal topics inside.
Right.
Okay.
So actually, you co-created the questions with that's really good insight. And I think it's very tempting to feel like we have a clear view on what that challenge is, but it may not be perceived the same way, right, by the audience. Amazing. So let's pause there. I'm going to switch over. So thank you ever so much, Isabella. That was great. We will open up the opportunity to ask further questions later on to Isabella. She's also going to hang around. I'm going to move on to Caitlin, who is our second topic. And Caitlin, I'm going to ask you to just introduce your role and the company that you work for. And we're going to get into your topic, which again is another one that I find very pertinent, which is about building trust between leadership and the innovation groups and how you began to address that. So let's kick off with just a little bit about your role in Birla Carbon.
Sure, and thanks so much for having me on, Colin, and great to be part of a good group of panelists here. As Colin said, my name's Caitlin Lawrence. I'm based in the southern United States, in the state of Georgia. Our company, Birla Carbon, is a manufacturing organization. We do have a very large global footprint, although we are mid-size in employees. We're based in 12 countries with 16 manufacturing sites around the world. We manufacture carbon black additives. So these are things that are found in mechanical rubber goods, batteries, inks, car coating. So something that you're probably familiar with using every day, but maybe not familiar necessarily with carbon black itself. My role with the organization is in innovation management. I really help the organization drive our innovation strategy and help to build a long-lasting and sustainable culture of innovation, really working directly with our employees to drive engagement, to empower them to shift their perspectives, to think differently, to help us really future focus our perspectives.
Amazing. So you and I met very recently, Caitlin, and we talked about this topic of building trust between innovation, leadership, and the organizational leadership. And this is a pertinent problem that I see regularly through my work. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Most of the executives in our organizations, innovation wasn't part of their MBA coursework. They're not necessarily knowledgeable about what the journey of innovation looks like. And of course, they know they need innovation. They're not entirely sure what that means. And so they devolve responsibility to people like yourself and me. and then they're wondering, well, what is it you're doing here? When might I see results? When might this work actually hit the bottom line? And so we have the sort of disconnect between innovation practitioners and leaderships and executives, and building trust and trying to communicate in a way that's meaningful for them is a big step on the way. And I know this is a challenge that you face. Maybe you can explain a little bit about how that felt at Birla Carbon, how it manifested itself, and then we can dig into how you began to address it.
Sure. So I think one of the biggest hurdles that any innovation manager can face when trying to build that sustainable, long-lasting culture of innovation is getting consistent leadership support. And I think the key word here is consistent, because there can be times where leadership buys in, to a certain challenge statement or to a certain campaign, and maybe that support drops off. But the key here is consistency. And if we want the innovation mindset to really stick within an organization, we have to get our leadership involved early on. So one of the key challenges for us was identifying opportunities and ways to get leadership embedded into everything that we're doing through our innovation journey. Something that I learned really early on along the way is that not every leader is going to buy in on day one. And that was really hard for me. It felt really discouraging, especially since most of us are probably small teams of 2, 3, 4, people. It can feel really discouraging when you're trying to churn out and work, and you're working hard to build this culture and you're not getting that buy-in. So I started to kind of view this as an opportunity. It's a chance for us to really step up and show with results the actual value that innovation brings to the business. So when we can point to kind of tangible outcomes, it can turn innovation from this kind of nebulous term, this buzzword, into, this real thing. And some of our biggest skeptics can become our biggest advocates through this process. So that was kind of one of the key learnings, was key challenges was how do we get that leadership buy-in? How do we convert our skeptics into advocates for innovation? And then how do we leverage that leadership to support to really continue to, build momentum with the business?
And so what were the major things that you started to do to put in place that started to build these bridges? I've known you several years, and I think that, Birla Carbon embraces the world of innovation, certainly, but we still need to find that common language somehow. So what was the sort of steps that you've managed to progress?
I think for us, it was really I will say a 3-pronged approach, although there were different steps within each prong. So the first thing was getting leadership directly involved in the innovation efforts. That was kind of the very first stage. So we ran a series of what we called roadshows, where we went out directly to each of our manufacturing sites, and we trained on the systematic inventive thinking methodology, which is the method that we've adopted as business. And we invited senior leadership to come with us to each of these sites to be part of this kind of effort. I think the really amazing and exciting thing about that was that we had leadership representation at every site, and every single one of our senior leaders came to at least one event. Most attended multiple events. Our CEO was at nearly every single event that we ran. And I think that really demonstrated that commitment from leadership, that innovation is important to our business. During that roadshow series as well, we also invited leadership to hear idea pitches from our employees at the sites to select ideas that fit our core strategy, and to help sponsor those ideas to implementation. So that was kind of the first stage, was finding ways to get leadership directly involved in innovation in front of our employees, really bridging that gap between leaderships in our employee base, because I really think this is critical for creating the sense that every employee's ideas are valuable,
right,
and can drive results.
Can I just dig into that topic a little bit? So I think it sounds like you did that all around the world in terms of all the sites. Did you see any cultural differences between leaders and employees in terms of their comfort with that approach? In terms of leaders being happy to support what was happening locally and employees being happy to share?
Yeah, good question. I do think that cultural differences are a big challenge, and we have to find ways to sort of accept those differences and build them into how we are engaging with our employee base. I think one of the key things that helped to really bridge that gap was asking leadership to actually speak at these events, to sit with the employees at the table, to make them feel comfortable sharing their ideas and their thoughts. So we actually sort of trained the leadership a little bit at each of these events on how to interact with the employee base to bring out these important conversations. I think another layer of that was also asking our sites to focus on real world relevant site specific challenges, because employees did feel they had ownership over the conversations that they were having, because they were challenges that were relevant to them, that they felt impacted their daily roles and their daily work.
Makes complete sense. So I interrupted your flow. I think it was the first
No
prong of
worries.
your three. What's the second prong?
So the second prong was, or for us, is really diving into the more tangible aspects of building this trust and credibility with leadership. So there are two ways that we did this. So the second prong is around the culture. The third prong, I'll give a little preview, is around data. But with this prong, it was really about, for us, we wanted to run a series of surveys. We do this on a biennial basis, where we're actually sourcing feedback from our employees on, where they feel our innovation journey is, what the health of our innovation journey is. And I think this was critical for us to maintain that leadership buy-in, because we can actually tangibly show leadership through the results of the survey, the areas that we're excelling in, the gaps that we have, where we need to put an emphasis moving forward, where we can kind of tie leadership into some of, these results. So I think for us, that as a second prong, that was a way to really demonstrate to leadership how we're shifting the needle on culture of innovation across the business.
Right. Yeah, because just measuring these things and be able to show that data change is so impactful, because I think that, I think most of us accept the fact that employees have a crucial role to stimulating innovation, but where's the evidence of that? And I think, especially at a time when employee engagement is so low across organizations, being able to demonstrate they're actually finding a way to engage people on the future of the organization is just beneficial for everybody. Great. So let's dig into your third prong and data. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So in order for us to really maintain that leadership buy-in and trust, it was really important for us to speak the same language as leadership. And I think you said that a few minutes ago, Colin, creating this common innovation language. And one thing that leadership really gets behind is data. They want to see results. They want to see, the tangible outcomes, how things are progressing the business. And so we really partnered with the leadership team to build a business intelligence dashboard that looked at metrics that were important to leadership. And these are real concrete metrics that we can show in real time how we're moving the needle on innovation. So that was kind of one facet of it. The second facet of this kind of data-driven mindset was really on the site level. So in addition to senior leadership, we really focus on our site level leadership. And on a quarterly basis, we're providing them with reports for their site that roll up regionally and globally, so that they can see and track where their innovation performance is and measure it against the rest of the business. So this helps us to quickly identify gaps. It helps us to identify, functional involvement, site level involvement, and then be able to roll that up to leadership to kind of show them, where our business is headed in terms of innovation. So I think really focusing on this concrete data-driven, outcomes was really important, because it is speaking the language that leadership, understands.
I think this is one of the big takeaways that I have from my work, is that we have to convert our work into language that they understand. We can't expect them just to be able to learn our world as an innovator. I used to sit in those meetings and try and translate the work I was doing to senior people who I wanted big amounts of money and resources to allocate. And it was just a big battle. And I think I have one follow-up question, and then maybe we can open it up. What is it that they like to see the most in terms of these dashboards and this data? What are the killer report or the killer metric that kind of resonates most with them?
I think it's actually twofold. So one is certainly, the financial metrics that you're able to show, real, tangible results. But I actually think another really critical metric for our leadership team is around the engagement with our manufacturing sites. Because we're a manufacturing organization, the heart of our business is our manufacturing sites. I sit in a corporate office, in Marietta, so I'm slightly removed from our sites, and it can be a challenge to drive the engagement with our plant locations, from the corporate office. And so for our leadership team, it's important for them to see that our manufacturing sites are actually driving the progress and the results, because these are the individuals that are the heartbeat of our business. So our leadership team is constantly, pushing for our manufacturing sites to get engaged, to share their ideas, to drive their projects to completion. So I think that's to them equally as important as the tangible results.
Very interesting. So Monika, Isabella, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute and ask them to Caitlin now, or we can address them later.
I would like to answer the question that is how hype is used by organization to deliver results and engage the leadership. It's something that you mentioned. Also, the engagement of the leadership. We in Pholpharma, we succeeded in engaging the leadership team to be active on the Hype platform and commenting the ideas. So it's the only place in the whole organization where somebody from the production side can talk to the CEO about their idea being seen by them, by the leadership team. And this is building such a huge engagement. It's perfect. And even last year during our innovation gala, we gave prizes for the engagement in innovations, and our CEO got the prize for the most comments on the Hype platform.
Wow.
So
yeah, very cool.
I love that.
And I think it works both ways, right? So I think, and there's a question here is about culture. Different parts of an organization operate differently, and they want to see different things. But what is common in any medium to large organization is that gap between the CEO and the people on the front line is quite large. And that can feel like you're quite disconnected from where the organization's headed. I think from a leader to see the creativity and the innovation and the insights from an employee is really engaging to them. They believe in the people, that they can help them transform. But the other way is also fantastic. So an employee can say, oh, actually, I can get the attention of senior people in my organization. I can influence the future. That's quite empowering. And that, of course, helps them feel like they have some agency over where the organization's going. Even if an individual insight or idea is not adopted, the fact they have a voice is really powerful. And that sounds like what something that both of you managed to achieve, which is tremendous. Amazing. So we're going to move on to Monika. So you're already here. So thank you so much, Caitlin. Great insights as always. And Monika, again, if you could just explain your role in Pholpharma, a little bit about the company, and then we'll talk about your specific challenge, which I was a little excited to get into.
Okay. So my name is Monika Jaslowska. I'm the transformation advisor in Pholpharma, which is the Polish leader of the pharmaceutical market in Poland. We operate in Eastern Europe, Kazakhstan, and Vietnam, and we also export our pharma substances to 70 countries all over the world. And in Poland, we have 5 production sites and 4,500 employees. So.
And your role, Monika, you've been involved.
I'm running for the last 5 years the employee-driven innovations program called Leonardo. You can see the logo here. So I'm leading this program and building
fantastic.
it.
Well, thank you again for joining us. Now, your topic is another one that I love, and it's about making sure that the people that are owning the innovations, that are developing the concepts, actually have the skills and the experience in order to turn the concept into action. And this is a real interesting challenge to me because, of course, the more adventurous we get with our concepts and our new solutions, the less likely that an individual has all of the things that they need in order to actually make that happen. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that problem as you saw it at Pholpharma, and then we can move on to some of the things that you've done.
Yeah. So when Colin asked me about our challenges, I could like keep on going after those 5 years on 1 hour. But the main challenge for me was the lack of resources in our innovation team, which is me 100% and 50% of the portfolio manager, and that's it. And we are developing the program, building the engagement, doing communications, trainings, and so on, and then monitoring the implementations and the whole process. So we cannot really focus on real portfolio management because it's a lot. And we also support our colleagues in Kazakhstan, 1,000 people. So it's really a lot, and the knowledge to transfer the knowledge in the organization, it's really hard to do. And we had for the 4 years, we had sort of ambassadors in our organization who were supporting us. But after 4 years, we have realized that we need something more than just ambassadors. We need really fully trained people in each of the business area to support the innovations. And people volunteered. We have gathered 34 people who agreed to dedicate 10% of their time, and their supervisors also agreed. And we have opened something called the Academy of Innovation Leads. And we run the training, like proper innovation management trainings for the whole year this year. And
wow,
we trained, So we trained the people in the whole process, in prototyping, in idea generation, on the whole process of portfolio management and open innovations and so on. So lots of topics, lots of work. And it works. I mean, they are representing the main business areas of the whole company. So we have like our people everywhere.
So tell me a little bit about this volunteer community. So obviously, we got into the challenge that you faced is how do we support everybody across a complex organization to actually do the work of innovation. You're a very small team. We need to amplify that work. Sometimes I found that there are people that emerge that automatically I would want, I want you part of my community. I want you in the loop. And sometimes I ask for volunteers. What kind of range of people did you find? Were they people that already had some innovation skills, that were just passionate about the topic, or were they completely new to this space in some cases?
Some of them were previous ambassadors, but most of them were totally new. They just have the creative mind and passion, and wanted to do something more than just come 9 to 5 to the work. And we built not only the knowledge, but also the community and the friendship, and we have fun together. It's not. I think that if the team, such a huge team, have fun, you can achieve much more than just boring work. And so we kept the passion, and they are after the finishing the first year, because this academy will last next year as well. We will develop their skills more and more, and they divided themselves into 6 groups, and they are working on different aspects of innovations. I have the list of this group. So one is training and culture. One is Leonardo, so innovations AI driven. open innovation, innovation excellence, innovation project management, and innovation brand communication. So I'm not only the one person, one and a half in our innovation team, but I have huge team out of 34 people, with each of them dedicated 10% of their time. And they are helping develop the whole program, not only developing the ideas.
Interesting. That's really encouraging. I wonder, have you been able to maintain that community? Sometimes people just get busy on other things, you know, the day job overwhelms them. Is this something that, you know, as maybe one or two people drop out, you then bring extra people in to replace them, or are you managing to maintain that community as it was?
So we meet 3 times per year for 2 days face-to-face on a training. Then we meet every month online. Each of the innovation lead is coaching one or two or three ideas from our portfolio, and they are coaching the team, mentoring them, and helping during going through the innovation process. They are helping each other in the teams as well. So nobody is just alone. In these six groups, people are supporting each other as well.
I think that's really important, that peer-to-peer connection, and knowing that, you know, it's not just you as an individual working up, it's working across the community and sharing best practices between members. So we've got a good question here from Youssef is, what type of training are you embedding with your champions? It sounds like there's a really broad range of different capabilities that you're developing them in.
We train them in the whole process. So how to create ideas, how to design thinking methods and other creative idea generating methods. Then how to test ideas, prototyping, how to use the module project management of the Hype. We are using this module as well this year, and it is helping to monitor the results. How to build the challenges and gather challenges from the business areas. This is not easy, very often not easy. So I mean the whole range of skills needed. Also in open innovation, how to work with academics, how to work with startups. And they will also, the group of open innovation, their task is to build the whole process in our organization for open innovation next year.
I mean, that's really encouraging, because you're not just finding your random people, you're actually developing these as the innovators of the future. I wondered, you know, I know that at Pholpharma you have incredible support from your CEO. How easy was it for you to get permission to take a little bit of all of these people's time? And I wonder if their job titles or their compensation is adapted in any way. Do they still have the same role that they always did? It's just this is an additional role, or are they starting slowly to move towards almost like a more significant part of their job?
Well, after 1 year, it's still they have their own job, and this is on top of their daily tasks. But I hope from some of them can develop their skills furthermore and be more and more important. One of them, for example, because my role will be global next year, so I will be responsible for innovations on all our markets. And one of these leaders, innovation leads, will support me on innovation on international markets, because she's a marketing manager of international markets. So some of them are starting to shifting their roles more into innovations, and I think it will happen next year. Yeah.
So it sounds like the results that you're seeing are justifying adding extra capacity to the team. It's just you've done so from a slightly different way, which I think is interesting, because a lot of innovators, we always complain we don't have enough people. You know, we never have enough people, and it's hard to bridge that gap between where we are and where we want to go, what we think is necessary. What you found is that sort of almost like a side path, I think, there, which is really, really great learning. I want to open it up to Isabella and to Caitlin, of course, if they have any questions for for you, Monika. So feel free if you've got anything that you'd like to dig into to talk about this community of innovation advocates and champions. Feel free to ask now. And for those of you who perhaps aren't in that group, feel free to put your questions in the chat.
Yes, no, it will not be a question. It will be just some encouragement, because yes, it's never done, and working with a community of people and engaging them, because we have a lot of passionate in innovation. So we need to give them food to go ahead, and they will do a lot. Anyway, we need also to help them to be promoted or to show them. And I agree, we are doing quite the same with what we call operational awards. You mentioned the manufacturing people. Sometimes they have to work in the manufacturing sites, and they are not seen by the CEO. But when they are sharing best practices, innovative practices that will help to be more productive, they are recognized. So yes, good luck, continue. It's a long journey, I would say, but enriching journey.
Absolutely, great points. I have an interesting question, really, about this embedding a culture of innovation, because I see what you've done here, Monika, is really to start to take the things to the next level, to start to encourage people and support people in their place of work with qualified experts who are well trained. I wonder if your regular employee is also recognized in terms of contribution to innovation. So one thing that I'm starting to see some resonance with is actually allowing people, a section in their annual review to say, hey, I've supported the innovation program. Given how well embedded your Leonardo program is that a step that you have taken? Is that something you want to add?
I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm trying to convince the managers to ask for their Leonardo contribution during the yearly review. It happens in some areas, but we are not there yet. I hope it will be a part of yearly review.
Very good. Yeah, I'm going to bring back our other panelists. So Isabelle, Caitlin, if you want to come back onto camera, and we will pin you. There's a couple of different questions starting to emerge here. So anyone can answer this one, which I think is an interesting point, which is, do you believe in the law of diffusion of innovation on starting an innovation culture? I guess this is trying to make it everybody's job. Anybody got some observations on that point?
I'm not sure. Perhaps not all the people will be interested in innovation, but every person who wants to be part of it could play a role. And it will not be at the same level, but you could have people who can be part of a network and inform you, there is something that could be interesting. You need a lot of high skills and working together.
I agree. Go ahead, Colin.
No, I was going to make the point that I think that everybody can contribute, but it may be different contributions. So for some people, it's sharing an observation about something a customer said. For another person, it might be supporting solving a problem. For another person, it might be sharing a new idea. The answers are going to be different according to the person. We can't expect everyone to support in the same way. All right, so another question here, which I think is great, which is, how do you keep the innovation theater in check? Yeah, that's a really good point. Anybody have any observations on that?
Communication.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to add something inspired by Caitlin's observations, which is data. The metrics that kills the innovation theater. Focus on the numbers, communicate in a way which is meaningful to leadership. I think Caitlin explained just how that helps build trust between leadership and the innovators, but also it helps stifle the innovation theater. So we stop to be a talking shop and focused on real stuff. Innovation takes time. We need people to come with us, of course, but that data aspect and showing momentum and change in that data is very valuable. I think we have. Go ahead.
think I'll just build on that a little bit, Colin, but I think something else that's really important is that you don't have to call something innovation for it to be innovation. So sometimes just the language that we use as innovation managers is really important. So a lot of times when we focus on specific challenges and we're asking employees to generate ideas, we'll actually go to certain groups of employees who may be interested in that topic and sit with them and work through the idea development process, but we don't necessarily have to call it innovation. We're selling it to them as, supporting them with a challenge that they're having, that the solution will benefit, maybe, will help with efficiency or will benefit their daily roles. So I think sometimes even shifting the way that we communicate or the language that we use can have an impact on how people perceive innovation.
It's a great point. I mean, the word innovation isn't always helpful to us. It's a subjective word. We can't always control how people interpret it. I've found recently that the worlds of innovation, transformation, and efficiency are starting to get a little closer. We would have kept these things quite separate in the past, but actually it's just changed. It's a question of magnitude. I think I completely agree with you. We don't have to use the word innovation for everything. Conscious of time, we didn't get to absolutely every question. There's one or two in the chat that I will follow up with you about later. But I wanted to thank the panel, Monika, Isabella, and Caitlin, for being just a phenomenal group of people to talk about this topic and get into these challenges and how you've resolved them. And I really appreciate just how open you have been in terms of, not everything is easy in our world. And I think, you have, with persistence and energy, been able to address some really meaty challenges. So congratulations to you for making great progress, but also thank you for sharing those insights. Before we close, I want to just share with you, everybody, as always, our little QR code for feedback. It's very helpful for us to be able to get your insights in terms of these webinars and what sort of stuff you like, where you think you'd also like topics to be shared. So I'm just going to share my screen for a moment, and you can perhaps, yes, take a picture of that QR code. Apologies, that's not on presentation mode for everybody. And also, as always, there's an offer of a free consultation, which we pick randomly somebody out of a hat that has given us some feedback on our session. And then we usually spend about 45 minutes with you on a web call just to talk about whatever innovation topic you're particularly passionate about. I did one just this week, and it was a wonderful discussion with a gentleman who had an awful lot of interesting stuff to share. So we often learn from each other really well by doing this kind of stuff. So please do give us feedback. It's very helpful for us to make sure these are supporting the types of challenges and topics that you're interested in. So I'm going to finish on time, which I know everybody appreciates. We all live in a busy world with many things. So thank you again to our panelists. You will get a recording of this for those who attended. You'll also get a transcript, I think, Sonia, is that correct? And you may well be hearing from us with some follow-up questions and things in the future. So thank you ever so much, everyone, for attending.
And thank you, Colin, for being a really great moderator.